Hello, my name is Eric Florup with C-TRAN, and we're here live for an online open house to talk about proposed service changes coming up in the fall of 2024. I want to start by saying welcome to everyone who is joining us live on the C-TRAN YouTube channel, or perhaps you're watching the recording afterward. Either way, I want to say thank you for taking the time to be informed, to make your voice heard, and for helping C-TRAN provide better service in Clark County. So today's event comes after an in-person open house that C-TRAN hosted earlier this month down at the Vancouver Community Library, reviewing the same concepts that we're going to go over today. Public feedback is a huge part of any service change, and your feedback is why we're here. So for this fall, we're proposing a relatively minor service change, but there are segments of two routes that would be realigned and multiple other routes that would see schedule and trip changes. The main goal of these changes are to improve reliability, adjust service to match changing travel patterns and demand, and to improve the transit network while continuing to grow ridership. But before we get into the details, I want to note that this isn't the whole picture. While the proposed changes for this fall are relatively minor, they're part of a larger set of priorities that we're looking at for the coming years. C-TRAN plans to propose additional service concepts in 2025 as resources allow, which will build on these changes that we're talking about now. So your comments will inform not only this service change, but also future service changes as we continue to improve the network in the coming years. Now, to get into the specific concepts, I'm going to bring in Ben Nolan, who is C-TRAN's service planner and a member of the planning team. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Eric.
Good to have you. And as I mentioned, for those watching, we want to hear from you. If you're with us live on YouTube, you can ask questions or share your thoughts directly in the comments. Feel free to drop them in now, and we'll get to them during our Q&A portion of this event a little bit later. And we've also set up an online comment form at c-tran.com that you can use anytime. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben to walk us through the specific proposals we're talking about for this fall. Take it away, Ben.
All right. Thank you, Eric. All right. So we'll just jump right into the alignment change on Route 6. Currently, Route 6 serves Columbia House Park and Ride. We get just over one passenger boarding per day over there. And so with that in conjunction with getting several requests to go down to Columbia Shores Boulevard, um, an area that we had previously served once upon a time, we've decided to bring Route 6 out of Columbia House Park and Ride and use Columbia Shores Boulevard to Columbia River Drive back to Columbia Way and head back north on Grand. Um, Primarily, that will help faster connections eastbound from Route 6 to and from connecting routes. That will allow passengers access to that Columbia Shores neighborhood that we haven't served for quite a while. And with that change, it's not on the map here, but we will be, say if we're down here near the Grand Fred Meyers, westbound, we will still be going into the VA Transit Center off of 4th Plain. However, eastbound from Fruit Valley, instead of going in to that little circle at VA Medical Center, we will just cross the entrance to serve our shelter at 4th Plain and St. John's. That shelter is a little bit further from our shelter actually at the VA Medical Center, but it's well within eyesight. So we don't feel too many people would get confused by that. This will also allow us to put 40-foot buses on Route 6, allowing our dispatchers a little bit more flexibility with those vehicle size restrictions that we have right now. All right. Yep, that is all I have for Route 6. Thank you, Eric. Okay, so for our alignment change on Route 30, currently we depart Fisher's Landing Transit Center, travel north on 162nd Avenue, um, west on Northeast 39th Street, south on Northeast 138th Avenue, and then west on Northeast 28th Street, and then the same routing in the opposite direction. A couple things have happened that no longer make that alignment tenable. So what we are planning is, instead of going all the way north to 39th Street, um, we will instead just continue on that stretch on Northeast 28th Street. The city of Vancouver has put in a series of speed tables, 17 in fact, on Northeast 39th Street, which has already slowed us down considerably. And if we were to stay on 39th Street, we would need to uh, uh, schedule another operator every single weekday to provide that service. And right now, that is untenable for us. We want to make sure we're providing all the trips that we say we're going to provide. So adding that extra operator, even though we've been making improvements, is just not tenable at this time. And then with that change on to 28th, that'll allow us faster service on Route 30 for everyone else. 39th is, even though there are some riders, the two main stops where we see the highest ridership for that stretch will be served directly by replacement stops. So the majority of people in that stretch will still continue to be served by a combination of Route 30. And it's not on the map here, but Route 74 as well. Route 74 is a change that we made back in October, which travels north and south on this map on 162nd Avenue, helping out some of those people who live a little bit further north. 28th Street also has better sidewalk conditions, better neighborhood access, as well as better marked crossings. So overall, this is a much better option for C-TRAN and our customers. Thank you, Eric. All right. In addition to those changes, we do have a couple trip-related changes to several routes. Route 31, we will be adding a northbound early morning trip from downtown to 99th Street Transit Center, as well as two Sunday morning trips in each direction. So with that change to the 31, we will be adding two Sunday morning trips on Route 32 as well. This will allow both Routes 31 and Route 32 to match our Saturday and Sunday start of service in the morning, which is something we've been trying to get all of our routes to do within the past couple of years, and this change will allow us to reach that goal. Route 41 here is next. So there are no trip additions to Route 41. However, right now it travels along some of the same stretches of road that Route 92 does, and there are already pre-existing Route 92 stops. So we're going to open up those stops to Route 41. We don't expect really any delays now based on ridership. They originally weren't included because we did want to make sure that the 41 was traveling as fast as possible. And so now that we have a little bit of data, we can safely say the opening those stops for Route 41 isn't going to slow it down significantly. So this will uh, help people access Route 41 a little bit better. Moving on to Route 48. So the last weekday trip of Route 48, um, we see a significant reduction in ridership due to a lack of connections as it comes into 99th Street Transit Center. Shifting that final weekday trip earlier will allow Route 48 passengers to continue on in Vancouver, um, opening up their transfer options, which they don't currently have um, too many of. And then Route 78 will get 4 total trips added to it. 2 morning eastbound trips from Van Mall Transit Center, from 99th Street Transit Center to Van Mall Transit Center, as well as 2 weekday evening trips from Van Mall Transit's. I just want to make sure this is correct. Apologies. Um, yep. 2 weekday evening westbound trips. Um, Maybe early afternoon is a better term. So those trips are already um, directions that those buses are traveling in, but right now they're out of service, doing what's called a deadhead, going to or from the garage to start a route. So what we're going to do is we're going to shorten that deadhead and allow those trips to start or end at Van Mall Transit Center instead of 99th Street Transit Center. And I think that's it for those, Eric.
Okay, thank you, Ben, for that overview. Appreciate that very much. So now we're at the portion of our open house. We're going to open it up to questions. A couple folks have weighed in already. It looks like Alyssa, who is watching live, says, love the additional Sunday morning trips. Thank you for that feedback. That's really good to hear. Ben, I'm wondering if we can start with a question that we often get with service changes, which is, in general, what does C-TRAN look for in deciding which routes to change and how to adjust schedules? So in other words, what are we looking at day to day, week to week, month to month as we plan any change to service?
Right. Well, we always keep the entire network in mind, first and foremost. So we pay attention and we analyze changes in ridership, in passenger requests to provide new service or more service on an existing route. And so based on those and like conversations with our partners at the various cities that we serve, as well as Clark County, um, looking years down the future, some of the near-term changes are done with those long-term changes in mind. And so a lot of our ideas for route changes and schedule changes come directly from passengers as well as our operators. And so we kind of put all those pieces together to um, decide what to present to propose for any changes.
Okay. Another question we've gotten on this service change is, what will the impact of these changes be on staffing for C-TRAN, if any?
Hmm. Right. Yep. So that has definitely been a concern recently, although that has been getting quite a bit better since we've had a couple classes graduate. And so these changes will have zero impact on the number of operators that we need to provide service in either direction. So even though there's a few trip additions, they're not going to add up enough to require any more operators.
Okay, great. And for the folks watching, classes refers to new classes of operator trainees that are now part of the team and out on the street. So that's certainly good news. Couple of specific questions we got from folks ahead of today's open house. Kim says, love the idea to change Route 6 to add access to Columbia Shores, giving more access to the waterfront trails and restaurants and service for multifamily housing down there. Kim, that's for great feedback. Thank you for sharing that. She also adds, love adding more morning times to the 32 on Sunday to build consistency and less confusion. Again, that's great to hear. Appreciate the feedback on that. One question we've also gotten related to Route 6, Troy asks, why is C-TRAN no longer going to serve the Columbia Park and Ride? So Ben, you alluded to this already. Relatively low ridership there. What were some of the other factors that play into that decision to go to the Columbia Shores area rather than the Park and Ride?
Sure. So historically, we originally started serving Columbia House Park and Ride um, because it was the best place for Route 6 to turn around. Um, and so for all of the years that we've been at that WashDOT owned Park and Ride, we have never seen high ridership demand there. And so we, at one point, did serve that neighborhood, Columbia Shores, that is. And so, uh, because of the recent requests that we've gotten, as well as um, the I guess hope for ridership post pandemic, um, never really materialized at that park and ride, and so we're not really losing anything by making that change, but our passengers are gaining quite a bit more access.
Okay. Chris also submitted a comment before today saying, I'm all for the Route 6 realignment. The Columbia Shores area has been without transit for too long, and this allows for greater access to that area. So yeah, again, that's great to hear. And I think there's a lot of folks excited for transit service down there again. That hasn't been the case for a little while. Staying on Route 6 just for a little longer, another question we have received alluded to the other side of that route, which is up near the VA area. So as you mentioned, Ben, the access is going to look a little different up there going eastbound versus westbound. Westbound now will serve the stop on fourth plane rather than going all the way into the existing facility. How's that going to look for folks going eastbound versus westbound to access that facility?
Sure, sure. So coming from Columbia Shores, going westbound, we will still go into the VA Medical Center, which is where our operators have their recovery. However, eastbound, coming from Fruit Valley area, instead of turning into the VA, we'll just cross that little entrance and serve our shelter that we have on Fourth Lane in St. John's. It's still extremely close, but it's not direct front door access like we are going to continue to have westbound.
Okay. And for folks who aren't as familiar with that location, that eastbound stop is still right at the entrance to the VA, even though it's on fourth plane. It's a sheltered stop. There's full ADA access all the way from there to the facility, so you'll still be able to access it in both directions. So shifting gears a little bit to Route 30, we have gotten questions about the question of going to 28th Street, but instead of 39th Street. Ben, can you just talk a little bit more about what factors played into that decision and how the recent change to the Route 74 helped make that decision now with more access on 162nd?
Sure, of course. Um, so about 5 years ago, we brought this proposal forward, and because of customer and public feedback, we decided not to move forward with it. And so now, with the addition of 17 speed tables along just that mile and a quarter stretch of 39th, that has slowed us down enough that we would need an extra operator every weekday to continue to provide that service, um, and as well as do a little extra damage and make for kind of an uncomfortable ride on that stretch. Um, this time around, in addition to those, we have Route 74 going north and south on 162nd Avenue. And so with that extra service, the the context in that area has changed significantly. That now it's um, we would be we will get a much bigger benefit going down 28th than we do currently going down 39th.
Okay. A couple more comments we've gotten on the Route 30, more specific requests. One of them we got just here during this open house. ASL Angel says, I would like Route 30 to go behind Winco instead of front of Winco. And Joel, before today, submitted a question saying, is there a way to expand Route 30 to later hours beyond 9 p.m. on weekdays? So neither of those are proposed for this service change. But Ben, what do we do with those comments that we kind of keep in our back pocket, maybe for future service change? How do we handle those?
Sure. So we track those, and we when they first come in, we look about it and we talk about it in the planning group, and see if they fit with our some of the long-term plans that we know are coming down the line. Um, Things like minor reroutes, like um, ASL Angels requests, um, are something that we look at relatively frequently. And then the later service on Route 30 um, uh, is something that we also prioritize based on upcoming changes that we know we're going to have, the number of requests or similar requests that we get for that same type of change, and so as resources allow, we do make changes when they make sense, with all the big picture always kept in mind.
Yeah, that makes sense. And as you alluded to before, a lot of changes do originally come from suggestions from riders. So
Yeah.
keep them coming, and we really appreciate it. One more comment looks like from Alyssa says, love the 74 Route 74 changes that happened last time, being last fall. Just want more seating at the stops, especially one near busy streets. That's great feedback. Thank you for that, Alyssa.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Actually, so we're a little bit off topic, but we're currently in kind of a campaign to put out some no cost improvements. One of those being some seats that we have still in stock called Simi seats, as well as shelters that we have. We have plenty of now that Route 37 was replaced by the Vine on Mill Plain. And so that's something that we're also doing this summer. So on Route 74, um, you may see some extra seating pretty soon, Alyssa.
Great news. Yeah. So apart from service changes and route changes, we do look at stop amenities at the very specific level. So that feedback is always welcome too. Looks like that's all the questions we have for right now, and we're running short on time. So we will bid farewell to Ben for now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As a reminder, you can find full details of all the changes we talked about today on our website at www.c-tran.com. If you're interested in the future of public transportation in Clark County, remember that C-TRAN is also updating our long-range plan this year. That process is currently underway, which is known as C-TRAN 2045, and we're inviting all the communities we serve to be a part of it. You can also find details about that on our website as well. So with that, thank you for watching, thank you for riding, and we will see you next time.